Before setting up actual authentication, we're going to talk about Red Hat Identity Management in this lesson. You should be aware that all that I'm explaining now is not in the exam objectives, but you probably want to practice authentication and Kerberos authentication in particular. And in order to do that, you can use identity management. And it's a cool product. It's not that hard to set up. So I want to walk you through the steps that are necessary to work with identity management. So what is a Red Hat Identity Management? Well, it is based on the free IPA project. IPA stands for Identity Policy Audit. And it provides a couple of services, all bundled together in one solution. The first is the 389 directory server, which is an LDAP version 3 directory server. It's a replacement for OpenLDAP. Then there is single sign-on provided by MIT Kerberos KDC. There's an integrated certificate system that is based on the DogTag project. And there's an integrated NTP server. Also, there's an integrated optional DNS server that is based on ICS bind service. So what you can see here is that identity management really bundles a couple of pretty complicated projects together and provides one easy interface to set it all up. When setting up identity management, you should be aware that it conflicts with other products. For example, LDAP, Kerberos, certificate system, NTP or cronny or DNS shouldn't be running on the same server. So if you want to try to set up identity management, I really recommend to do it on a dedicated server. Now let's talk about the parts and requirements of identity management server. So what do you need to set it up? First, it needs hostname resolution, which means that you need to set up the hostname of the identity management server itself, either through DNS or through etc host. Then we need the IPA server package, which installs the server components. The IPA client package installs the client parts of the solution. You don't really need to have it on the server, but if you want to configure a client that talks to an IPA server, this is one solution that you've got. In this lesson, by the way, we are not really going to use the IPA client. We are going to use authconfig instead of using the IPA client. After installing the required RPM packages, you are going to run IPA server install, which is providing a scripted installation, just to make it easy. The installer is going to ask some questions, you are going to provide the answers, and at the end you've got an IPA server that is up and running. The IPA tool is a generic client interface. It's also the administration interface, so you will see that you can use it to do all you have to do in the IPA environment. An example is IPA user-add Lisa, which will create a user with the name Lisa, or IPA passwd Lisa, which will set the password for user Lisa. Or if you want to see the properties for user Lisa, IPA user-find Lisa will show you how to do it. It is a very rich tool and you can use it to do anything you need to do on your server configuration. Also, you can use IPA-XXX, where XXX represent different tasks. So what I would recommend is that you type IPA- and then hit the tab key on your keyboard twice to see how auto-completion is giving you everything that you can do with the IPA client command. Now, as I just mentioned, authentication can go through the IPA client. You can also use authconfig. And as authconfig is what you really need to know for the RHC exam, that's what we are going to focus on in this lesson anyway. So before starting the IDM installation, there's a few things that you should take care of. First, you need to set up hostname resolving. Really, the installation will fail if the host isn't capable of finding its own hostname. Also, it needs to know its DNS name because the Kerberos domain that you are going to configure will be based on the DNS name. Next, you need to make sure that the NSCD service is disabled, as well as any existing LDAP or Kerberos services. And that is also for NTP and DNS bind if you got them installed. And you need to open a couple of ports in the firewall, which is the web ports, the LDAP ports, the Kerberos ports, DNS, NTP, and the port that is used by the certificate system. Just make sure that these ports aren't blocked, otherwise your free IPA server will not work. Next, you can proceed and do the installation yourself. So the packages are included in the default repositories. So if you have installed CentOS 7, you can just type yum-y install iPaaS server bind NDS LDAP. Next, you can run the command ipa server-install, which opens the scripted installation in which you are just going to answer a couple of questions. Follow the prompted directions, or alternatively, you can use options as well, as in ipa-server-install-hostname equals server.example.com-n example.com-r example.com-p password-a password-u-no NTP. This is useful for scripted installations, but really, if you are not an expert on IPA, I would recommend that you just type IPA server install. It's so much easier, and the prompts will be perfectly clear about what exactly is expected. Next, you can restart the SSH server once the service has been installed to make sure that SSH obtains Kerberos credentials. To restart it, you use systemctl restart SSHD. Once that is done, you can verify Kerberos authentication for the default admin user by typing kinitadmin, and it will show you that you have a valid Kerberos ticket. You should know that at any time that you want to do administration tasks of the IPA server, you must have a valid Kerberos ticket, otherwise it will fail. That also explains many errors that administrators run into when tasks don't work. Well, they just don't have a valid Kerberos ticket anymore. kinitadmin will tell you if it's the case or not. Now, once you've done kinitadmin, it's also nice if you verify IPA access. To do that, you can use IPA user-find admin, and it will show you the admin user as it has been created in the LDAP directory and all of its properties. Now, let me talk a little bit about Kerberos tickets, because they are key to the proper functioning of identity management. So before being able to manage the IDM server, you need to log in to the IDM domain to get a Kerberos ticket for the admin user. And to generate the ticket, you type kinitadmin. You can also show ticket validity by using the klist command. Now let's talk about managing the IDM server. Once it has been installed, as I said again, you need to make sure that you've got a Kerberos ticket. I know this is the third time I'm saying it, but everyone is doing it wrong if they have never worked with Kerberos before. So kinitadmin. And next you can use the IPA command. Type IPA help commands for a short overview of all the commands, and it will tell you everything that you can do using the IPA command. And next you can type IPA help followed by the specific command that you want to use. And it will give you specific information on how to use that command. For example, IPA help user-add gives specific information about what it expects if you want to add a user. Another way of managing the IDM server is from the browser. Just open an HTTPS link to your server to access the IPA management interface. From the interface you can authenticate as admin, and you will be guided through all the different tasks of setting up an IDM environment. And you will see creating users from the browser interface is even easier than from the command line. As this lesson is about authentication, so make sure that at least you have created some users so that you can practice authentication for those users later in this lesson. So as it is so important that you have user accounts, here are the commands that you need to set up some user accounts. This is just showing you the 4 commands that you need after setting up the IDM server to create a user with the name Lisa. So kinitadmin is the first step to obtain the Kerberos ticket. Then you can type IPA user-add Lisa to add the user. IPA passwd Lisa will set the password for the user. And just to verify that the user really exists, you can use IPA user-find Lisa. So at this point you are able to set up an IPA server. In the next lessons you will learn how to use the IPA server to configure auth config for Kerberos authentication.